guys, it's day one of my new writing vlog. It's a week before Nanowrimo begins, but I've decided to start writing a week early. I'm going to be travelling through Canada throughout November, which, you know, I don't want to not have a good experience in Canada. I don't want to be focusing on writing while I'm there, so I thought I'd get a head start while I can, while I've got time on my hands. I'm house sitting for a couple of days, so I've got sufficient time by myself with the quiet to just completely immerse myself into my writing and my story. I'm so scared to start writing this novel now. Oh my god, it's finally happening. Whew. I am trying to figure Scrivener out in the background there. It's not going very well. I might just start on Microsoft Word and convert it to Scrivener later, if that's even a thing. I actually just don't even know what I'm talking about because I don't know Scrivener whatsoever. I mean, look at this. I'm trying to start a chapter and I don't know how. You guys are probably gonna laugh at me. Like, chapter 1. Now where do I write? He doesn't want to write. What do I do? Help. Okay, so I've got my chapter summary here, my highlighter, my pens, Microsoft Word is open. Whew. I don't even know where to start. It's been such a long time since I've written anything, guys. I am petrified. Hello, Miss Ellie. Are you helping me write? Yes, you are, aren't you? Yes. Good girl. Well, I'm busy trying to find some nice music to write to, but I don't really know what to write to. This is kind of shite. What music do you guys listen to while you write? Because I'm trying to find something nice. No, like the chapter I'm busy with is like, well, it's the prologue and it needs to be really captivating, so I need like some captivating music. Let me see what I can come up with. This isn't working for me. Here we go. I'd forgotten how difficult it was to write 1,667 words a day. I can't remember it being this difficult at all, but I'm on 1,518 words now, so I'm almost done, and it's looking pretty good. I'm really, really happy with it. Hello, my cookies. My meow meow. Are you gonna come and help me write my book? I did it! It's done, it's done, it's done! That was 1,683 words. Boom. So I said if I meet my word target for every day, I'm allowed to have a glass of wine. So I'm going to go out just now and see some friends, have a little bit of sushi and some wine. Before I do, I thought that I would share with you a little bit of what I wrote today. Sit back with a cup of tea and enjoy. This is my prologue. The door to the coffee shop yawned open. Peyton's eyes found me instantly from across the foyer, and she hurried towards me with cautious steps. Tendons and delicate twig-like bones moved frantically around in her hands as she clutched onto the pot of coffee I'd already ordered. The table wobbled as we fidgeted in our seats, neither one of us wanting to be the first to speak. Peyton took the mismatched wooden menu in her hands, even though we both knew that we wouldn't be ordering food. She hid behind it, and I stared at the globs of congealed glue coating the sides until the waitress came over to us. Her name badge read Janine, and her lucid demeanour quickly dissipated as we turned down her suggestion to try one of the shop's embellished cakes. I'd been hungry before, but my concern for Peyton had made me instantly lose my appetite. She looked dishevelled, undone. It was so unlike her usual loquacious self. I'd never seen her look so weak, vulnerable. Whatever this was, it was bad. We'd met on the beach over 10 years ago. I'd been out on one of my melancholy walks when this flamboyant, dark-skinned woman bounded up to me with a trail of impossibly long corkscrew curls behind her. She'd given me the most startlingly large smile I'd ever seen, holding out her camera and asking me to take a picture for her.
I fumbled with the camera and nodded politely. I couldn't really say no. I watched as she darted to her left, grabbing a hold of a young girl with an identical mop of pitch black hair. "Smile, Harley," the woman crooned into the girl's ear, squeezing her sides to force out a giggling yelp. The two fell into each other, laughing and playing, and I wasn't sure if I should wait until they calmed down or start snapping away. I chose the latter. I smiled as I took photograph after photograph, although it felt like I was watching something extremely intimate that I wasn't supposed to be a part of. Afterwards, I handed the camera back to her. She was gasping for breath. While looking through the selection of pictures, she asked me if I was a photographer. I remember blushing then, enjoying the feeling of the compliment. I shook my head, though I wished I could have said yes. For some reason, I wanted to seem interesting. I wanted her to like me. She smiled at me again. "Well, you should be." Her smile was captivating. I couldn't look away. "I'm Peyton, and this," she pointed her thumb across to the small girl who instantly interrupted her. "Harley," the girl said with a self-assured voice that I don't think I've ever heard from someone so young. She must have been no more than 3 years old. Peyton and Harley stared at me with indistinguishable grins. It was almost as though they were in competition with each other in that moment. "Reagan," I mumbled, my voice barely audible above the sound of the ocean. I'd always been socially awkward with my anxiety and unremarkable features, but I remember feeling strangely shy in front of them, particularly the little girl. Kids had always made me feel uncomfortable. I wasn't good with them. I think they sensed my desire for approval and used it to their advantage. Peyton and I had fallen into conversation as we walked back along the beach together, Harley charging ahead of us and splashing in the waves. She seemed oblivious to this third party who had just shown up. I think I preferred that I felt invisible around her on that day, to be honest. From that day on, both mother and daughter had taken me under their wings, and we'd remained friends ever since. "What happened?" I asked her now, staring at her nicotine-stained fingers. They were swollen from her pregnancy. Skirting around the question, Peyton beckoned the waitress back over. She hadn't said a word since sitting at the table. I stared at her aging features as she ordered another pot of coffee. Her words came out mangled. "Peyton, speak to me," I practically begged, reaching out to touch her trembling hand. She flinched away from me, making all sorts of thoughts fly through my head. "Has someone hurt you?" I asked once the waitress was out of earshot. She shook her head. I hated that I was losing my patience with her, but I didn't know what else to do or say. We both jumped as her phone vibrated violently on the metal tabletop. Harley's name flashed up onto the screen, and we both stared at it for a moment too long. "I need to get this," she whispered. I could barely recognize her voice. She lifted herself up on shaky legs and started to walk back towards the entrance. "Hi, sweetie," I heard her say in an instantly sugared voice as she answered the call. I watched her pace back and forth through the coffee shop window while she spoke to her daughter. She looked harried, as though she was explaining herself. When she returned, she was even more flustered than before. We sat in silence, the only noise coming from the screaming coffee machine in the corner and the calming saxophone oozing from the speakers above our heads. "It's Harley," she eventually said through gritted teeth. I remained silent, watching her thumb the screen of her phone until she placed it to one side. She looked up at me reluctantly. "I'm scared, Reagan. I don't even know how to say this without sounding completely crazy." "Try," I encouraged her carefully. I could hear the clock ticking from somewhere in the room. "She doesn't want me to have Nova." There was no mistaking the fear in her eyes as she placed her hands over her 8-month baby bump. Without even thinking about it, I told her that was ridiculous. It had to be. It was such a fallacious thing to say that I'd have laughed if it weren't for how unequivocally petrified she looked. "I'm serious. She keeps doing all these weird things, trashing the nursery, throwing out the new baby albums I bought. After the baby shower, she tried to take all the presents back to the store. It sounds like she's acting out, P. She'll come round." I was trying to sound like I knew what I was talking about, but the truth was, I was the youngest child myself and had no idea what it was like to have another baby come in and take my parents away from me. It's not just that, there's other things too. She says I don't need the baby things because I'm not having a baby. It's like she refuses to accept it. When I told her the baby was kicking the other day, she put her hands on my stomach, and when Nova kicked, Harley pushed back hard, really hard. It scared me, Reagan. There were tears in her eyes. I considered this for a moment. I guess I was trying to be pragmatic. The feeling of babies kicking inside the womb freaked me out too. Maybe that's why Harley reacted that way. Peyton didn't give me a chance to respond. I don't know if she's going to be able to handle not being the centre of attention. It was true that for 13 years, Harley had always been the epicenter of a mother's universe. I didn't know what to say. She's so angry. I honestly just don't know what she's capable of right now. I cleared my throat, sipping on the welcome bitterness of black coffee. "I think there are a lot of hormones in your house right now. You need to remember she's 13. Teenage hormones plus your pregnancy hormones is going to be a lethal combination." She sighed, nodding forlornly before choking back a sob. "I'm the worst mother in the world." "No, you aren't," I said, meaning it. "Reagan," she said seriously, "I'm scared of my own daughter." Her Her sparkling eyes bore right into mine, making the hair stand up on my arms. We finished the rest of the coffee in silence, neither one of us knowing what to say. When the bill came, we had our usual fuss over who would settle the tab. As always, Peyton won. She'd always had a much stronger personality than I ever would. When the change was brought over, Peyton ferreted it away, seemingly still on edge, while I shrugged on my mottled blazer. We began our procession down the coffee shop steps, feeling the autumnal nip in the air. The first thing she did when we were out on the sidewalk was light a cigarette. The smoke blew back into my face, but for once I didn't care. Passers-by shot her filthy looks, their eyes flitting between the cigarette and her bulging stomach. She didn't notice. I'd become fairly used to receiving looks from strangers whenever I was around Peyton. She had the rare ability to not give a shit about what anyone thought of her. From her tumultuous voice to her animated personality, she always remained true to herself, and I had always been enamoured by her. I think that's why it shook me so much to see her as run down as she was right now. "Hey, you going to be okay?" I assured her, placing a hand on her arm as she unlocked her car. She pivoted towards me, throwing her arms around my neck and almost knocking me off balance. She smelled like she always did, her perfume too sweet for me, but it was her, so I loved it anyway. I breathed her in, feeling her curls whip around us in the wind. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was the last time I would ever see her as I hugged her back a little too tightly. I should have paid more attention. Like I said, let me know what you thought of that in the comments down below, and I will see you tomorrow for my next writing video. See you later, guys. Bye.